today. Thank you for your interest in this work and the work that you're doing across the country. And thank you especially to our community partners for sharing their stories and doing this important work, and for the funders and other partners who are open to learning and supporting this work. As I mentioned, my name is Todd Jakes. I'm the Director of Strategic Initiatives here at Tides Canada, a national charity focused on healthy environment, social equity, and economic prosperity for all Canadians. We're honored to be the administrative home for the collaborative, as well as one of the many partners on the collaborative, and very excited to be hosting this webinar today as part of our efforts collectively to share lessons learned with the sector. I've had the honor over the last number of years of being the Tides Canada representative on the collaborative, and it has been an absolutely incredible experience. And each and every year, my professional highlight is the learning trip that we get to go on to connect with communities working on this important work and really share food together and share stories. And that's what today's webinar is about as well. So a bit of housekeeping. If you have any issues or tech questions, please use the chat box in the window there, or you can connect with Antonia Taylor via email, who sent out the webinar confirmation to you. We're going to be holding about 15 minutes at the end for questions and answers. We're going to be recording this session today, which will be available along with the slides after the session. And during the presentations, we will mute everyone and unmute during the question and answer period. And finally, if you would like to host or post anything on social media, please use the hashtag NMFCCC. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to my colleague and friend, program lead, Julie Price.
Thank you, Todd. Hi, everybody. My name is Julie. I'm coming at you from Treaty 1 territory here, homeland of the Métis Nation. I'm sitting in downtown Winnipeg. And the cool thing about this call is I can see people from all over Northern Manitoba have dialed in to hear about what their neighbors in Puckatawagan and Wabowden are doing. And I can see many of our collaborative partners are on the phone, as well as Tides Canada colleagues and new people that are interested in learning about it. So just a big thank you to everyone for taking a bit of time out of your day to join. Yeah, I'm the program lead I work for Tides Canada, and all of my focus is on the Northern Manitoba Food Culture and Community Collaborative. Sarah, you can click along to the next slide. So this collaborative is a pretty wonderful thing, and I'm very grateful to be part of it. I'm just going to speak about it for a few minutes to give some background information about what the collaborative is and how it works, and then I want to give lots of time for Johnny and Myrtle and hopefully Carol to share about the amazing things that they're doing in their home communities. The collaborative started about 5 years ago, and our main reason for starting is it came from conversations with communities. So communities, I had the privilege of traveling to Mississippi Cree Nation a number of times and talking to people there about what they want in an ally, in a supporter, in an organization that wants to help them further their community. And over, people would say the same thing to me, is that they really wanted to work in a relational sort of way. They wanted partners that would come and visit and listen and learn and help the community advance their own issues and work in a very human way versus the sort of traditional philanthropic model of proposal, check, report. So working together as people was really important, and they also advised that it would be really helpful if organizations that wanted to support communities in Northern Manitoba and elsewhere would work and have good relationship with each other. So to work collaboratively between the organizations. So at their advice, we thought a collaborative would be a good idea. When we put it out to the philanthropic community, Sarah, if you want to click ahead 2 slides. When we put it out to the philanthropic community, it made a lot of sense there too, because if we all work together, we're able to be more efficient with our work. We can share the risk and share the reward and celebrate together and learn together about what these communities in Northern Manitoba are trying to do around food and health and local economies. So one time an academic studied our collaborative and drew a picture, so that's the yellow slide that's next. She was trying to sort of visually describe it, and on the right-hand side of that yellow slide, it shows the communities at the dead center of the work, and then surrounded by that community vision are the blue dots, which are Northern advisors or elders. That we have a group of about 6 people from Northern Manitoba that are so instrumental in helping us think and learn about how to be good partners and how to break out of some of the traditional trappings maybe of colonial philanthropic models. So we put the community at the heart of it, then we're guided by our Northern advisors, and then we have a group of currently about 12 different organizations that are working together to be the collaborative. On the left-hand side, it shows what they viewed as the traditional philanthropic model of a funder having their sort of their program and plan and then delivering that to the community. On the next slide, it shows how I feel or envision our group, which is just this like big, beautiful group of people. So this picture was taken 2 years ago in Opaskwayak Cree Nation. And in this photo, you have funders, you have elders and Northern advisors and community members. And we're all together on the land in Opaskwayak, learning from each other and with each other. And this is sort of the really human face of the collaborative. So I'm just going to talk about the next slide for a minute, and then I'm going to turn it over to Johnny. There's a map there for anyone who's interested to see which communities we have been partnering with. We're currently limited to Northern Manitoba, but there have been requests from community members in Ontario and Saskatchewan to expand that mandate. We might be looking at that in the future. And then on the next slide, it just shows the actions that we're trying to do. So as a collaborative, we do try and provide very flexible community-centered grants for what communities want to do around good food and local economies. And that's roughly half of our annual budget. We also invest in north to north. So that's Northern people getting together with each other to share their wisdom, to share their experiences. So that's, outside of the model of bringing up experts to teach people about things. We just believe in the wisdom and the experience of Northern people. So we're trying to support that network and that learning between communities. We also have a deep commitment to amplifying the positive stories of what communities are doing. So our story sharing book has recently come out, and it's available on the website for download, or if anyone wants a copy of it, I'm more than happy to send you a beautiful hard copy to hold in your hands. So we're committed to getting those good stories out there so that communities can inspire their neighbors and people far away can learn about the really positive things that are happening in community. And then finally, the collaborative invests in our own learning, self-reflection, adaptation, and change. And that happens through that learning trip that Todd was talking about and through a lot of other ways, but just really understanding that we have so much to learn as primarily settler people, primarily from Southern Canada. We need to really do a lot to understand the reality in Northern Indigenous communities, and also to relearn or unlearn the colonial history of Canada and understand some of the policies and things that have happened that have been pretty uncool. So we're trying not to repeat the past, but to work in a very different partnership-oriented way. The next series of slides are just some photos that I wanted to put out there so that people could see them. Some awesome stuff happening in Poplar River First Nation, in Garden Hill First Nation, and a slide there of the Athinto-Mitswin program in South Indian Lake, where they're focused on traditional foods. That's a bull moose being cut up to be shared with the community. A visual of one of our North to North gatherings where people are gathered in Leaf Rapids, Manitoba, and doing seed exchange and talking with each other about growing in the boreal forest. The next slide shows Harold from Poplar River checking out some of the community stories, and people always have a big smile on their face when they are looking through this book and seeing what their neighbors are doing and hearing those positive stories. The last slide ends with a photo of Peguis First Nation, which has been one of our longtime partners, and a quote from one of our collaborative members. And she said, for a non-Indigenous Southern person who wants to be in solidarity with Indigenous and Northern communities and food sovereignty, we need to be led. So I don't have the knowledge or the capacity to know how to do that properly. I need to be guided. And I think the collaborative provides a framework for that to happen. So really at the root of it, we're trying to address those power imbalances and ways of working in the past that have not been good relational ways of working, and trying to chart a new path for good allyship and partnership. With that, I'm very happy to introduce a friend of mine who I've gotten to know over the last few years, Mr. Johnny Sinclair. He's speaking from Puckatawagan, otherwise known as Matthias Kalum Cree Nation, and he's going to share with us a bit about what was originally called the Puckatawagan Chicken Project and is now evolved into Dodge City Farms. So, Johnny, I'm going to turn it over to you, and thank you so much for taking the time to share with us today.
Good afternoon, everybody. So it's Johnny here, Sinclair, MCCN Treaty 6 area. We run off the belt of the Churchill River system. We are connected with our families up towards Granville Lake area, Leaf Rapids area. And just to let you know, Danse, Nto Timak. So that's hello, everybody. I'm thankful to have connected with the collaborative, and it started off a few years back. It was originally with gardening. I had connected with Tim Stevenson. He's no longer with the collaborative. He's moved on. And then I eventually hooked up with Becky Cook. And are you there, Becky? No? Okay. Anyways, Julie, with Tides. Hi, Julie. Now, I've only got a certain amount of time. I'm going to see how much I can get in here with today's talk. Now, the chicken project was something that was kind of started last year with a collaborative. They've helped out, and I'm gracious for their help. And it's exciting. And I've learned a bit. I'm still learning through the experience of having the birds, and also we kind of moved into having pigs here in the community. Now, there's a little bit of the history with MCCN, and it dates back with one of our late chiefs, Pascal Biggity. He had originally wanted to get into the agriculture business or start agriculture in the area back in the 70s, which roughly runs back about 36, 35 years back. Now, I've carried the vision, and I'm so grateful that and Larry Elms, he's not with us today, he's not here with the talk, but he had connected me with a collaborative, and I was able to work with the collaborative to kind of bring in the chicken project, and also bring in the pigs here that I have here in Puckatawagan, and I've certainly learned, quite an experience of having these animals here. Now, one of the big challenges that I had dealt with, like through the bringing in birds, was shelter and feed. Really difficult. It was almost like a discouraging at the start because of the amount of birds that were lost through the cold, and the like the birds that survived were bigger birds. I had turkeys, and I still have the turkeys, and the ducks, muscovy ducks, and they survived the winter, and I was really surprised, because this past winter was really cold. So seeing them survive the winter was really like something that wow, they survived. We can definitely keep this going. The pigs, they love the cold. They can roll around, when it's minus 40 out and have fun. So I wasn't too worried about them. I got them into Puckatawagan. They were piglets, and I have roughly at the beginning, at the start, there were 10 of them, and so they survived the winter with ease. They were fed barley, and this is the challenge of being in the north, is that bringing feed into the community is probably the biggest thing to ensure that the animals are fed properly. Now, because the animals are, they eat a lot. The barley is like a continuous flow, and like the feed has to be in, and then you have to make sure that they're being fed. Now, if you don't have a channel to bring in feed into the north, because the only way to get in here is by train, and there's the winter road, which is during the course of the winter. Now, there are those difficulties of having to, take that challenge of bringing in feed. So that, and I know that, are you there? Hi, Julie? Hello?
Hi, I can hear you, Johnny. Yeah, everybody else is muted just in case there's background noise going on, so we can hear you. You're doing good. Are you there?
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so.
Yeah.
How many more minutes do I have?
Yeah, about 4.
Okay, 4 more minutes. Okay, so the challenge of shelter and feed is something that I deal with, and it's a constant need to have the feed here. And one of the findings I had this year by accident was that we were actually going to try to do this next year, was to get to actually grow our feed here, and that wasn't going to be until next year. But surprisingly, because of when I feed the animals, the seed it hits the ground and goes into the soil. So I was able to actually prove that we can grow feed here. And what we found was like a kind of a clump of barley that grew this season. So that is a positive for our region here, because we are further north than for growing. I wasn't certain about it. I've actually grown all kinds of vegetables, but to actually grow grain or barley has been a real big surprise, and actually it's exciting for me because that will definitely cut cost. Now, to be able to grow it at a larger scale next year is going to be the next attempt so we can provide feed to the animals. And now, if we are able to successfully grow the barley at large volumes here, then that becomes even more exciting, because it will cut cost with the animals, and there is a plan to bring in bigger animals into the community, but right now that's not going to happen until we actually can get more feed into the community. That's probably something that we'll work on during the course of the time I have the animals that I have here. So yeah, there's a bit of work. And it's very it's exciting. The work is exciting, and and to try to explain all the stuff that is actually really going on, the little different details and that, this is going to take some time to do. So so thank you, Julie. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say thank you. And one of the things that Johnny and I have been talking about is if there's a group of people from, whether it's other communities from Northern Manitoba or whatnot, that wanted to do a longer call to just focus on how Johnny and his family and his neighbors have been growing this project and dealing with some of the challenges of getting feed and shelter up, that would be something we could pull together maybe after hunting and fishing season are over, because I think Johnny would probably be out on the land right now if we hadn't asked him to be on the phone with us.
That's actually, like, taking in the call right now is good, so that the rest of the collaborative, the Tides Canada, everybody that's hearing me right now, I'm grateful that you have been so, helpful with where we're heading with the project, and it's growing, and I need to let others know that this is very possible, that we can actually start to, get into some larger scale farming. But it's gradual. But also because it's gradual, we're certainly concentrating on expanding the project.
So the slide Sarah has up right now, Johnny, is the one that shows the new site where the farm is expanding onto. So for people who are looking at their computers, they can see on the left is Johnny in the blue t-shirt, and there's a big cleared area. So they planted some potatoes there this year, and this is where they'll be building more shelters and pens for livestock and expanding that vision for a fully functioning farm in the community there.
Yes, absolutely. And that area is roughly 12 acres of land that's already been cordoned off, and it will become an area that we will develop into full-scale farming.
Awesome.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Johnny, for taking a bit of time to share. And it's really exciting what you're doing. I know that none of it is easy, but it follows that vision of late Chief Pascal Biggity, and I see a lot of community strength in what you're doing. So thank you very much for sharing and being here with us today.
And I have to also say that I have to address the current, right now, the leadership was very, very helpful to make this happen also. So that's something I have to share with everybody, is that if you have a leadership, to certainly turn to them and knock on the door, and they certainly, I would think, would be of a lot of help. Yeah.
Great.
Yes.
Thank you. Next, it's my pleasure to introduce Myrtle Fourre. She's joining us from Wabowden, and I'm not sure if Myrtle's partner in crime, Caroline Sinofsky, is on the phone or not. I'm looking for her number here, but Myrtle, I don't see Carol's phone number showing up on the list, so you might be flying solo. But I just had the pleasure of meeting Myrtle face-to-face a couple weeks ago, and it feels like I've known her forever. And she's going to share a little bit about a traditional teaching program project that has been happening in her community. And Myrtle, can you hear? Oh wait, so Antonia, you're going to have to unmute. So her number's the 689. Okay, Myrtle, you're muted at the moment, but Antonia is going to unmute you, hopefully. She's still muted.
Sorry, Julie, I'm just trying to unmute now.
Yes, it'll be much easier for her to talk about the cool stuff that they're doing if she can use her voice. And yeah, I wanted to mention too, so like most of the folks from Yeah, sorry, guys, I was muted there. The connectivity that northern communities have is still quite different than what a lot of southern Canada has. So for a lot of our partners in northern Manitoba, they've joined by phone and had the slides emailed to them in advance. And Tony, I see that Myrtle is still muted. Are you able to unmute her?
I'm really sorry, I'm struggling to do so. I'm not sure whether, Myrtle, is there any way you can unmute your phone yourself, or she's
joined from her home phone at her house. So.
Okay. Sorry, everyone. Yeah, there we go.
Oh, yay! Hello. There, Myrtle, we can hear you. Welcome.
It told me earlier. It told me to press *6,
Oh.
and it would unmute, it said. So I just tried that, and it worked, eh?
Great. We can hear you loud and clear. Welcome. So yeah, you have about 10 minutes or so to share about the traditional teachings, and thank you very much for joining us.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. I was just going to say to Johnny, while listening to him speak, when he was talking about growing their own seeds and trying to get their own feed, I wrote it down here immediately because I thought we have to pay lots too to get our feed for our chickens. So that was very interesting. Maybe that's something we're going to have to do too. So I learned something already.
Barley seems to grow up here, and I was totally amazed. My children had brought it to my attention, and I went out to look, and I was like totally in awe because I wasn't expecting to do that till the following year, but it happened this year. So there's evidence and there's support that we can grow the feed ourselves. So that is a major step toward large scale farming in our area.
Okay, good.
So yeah.
Okay. Before I go on, my name is Myrtle Fourre, and I was born and raised here in Wabowden, and I'm always proud to say I was delivered by a midwife, so I didn't even go to a hospital to get born. We come from a small population. There's only about 500 people, and we're located along the Hudson Bay Railway. Our community is a blend of Métis, First Nation, and some settlers. We don't live on a treaty. We don't live on a reserve, but we do have a lot of treaty people. Myself, my father was a Cree from Cross Lake, Manitoba, and his parents were from Cross Lake, Manitoba also. So that's just a little bit of myself. I was a teacher for 32 years, and when I retired 10 years ago, I became interested in working with Caroline, and she's my niece, but we're only 6 months apart. And so I started working with her and going out to culture camps, and I was helping her by observing and helping to do what she was doing. So what we would do, and then now this year, actually this is our third project. We have a traditional medicines project, and our purpose is to connect the youth to our culture, to the land, to each other, and to adults and elders in our community. So we're trying to invest in our youth, and we're hoping that it will result in their having more confidence, and hopefully when they get grown up, they'll do what we're doing because of seeing all of this being done. Each project we do has about usually 4 students, and the activities are based on gathering and making medicines, and we teach the children how to harvest respectfully, how to treat the land with respect, and how to be safe on the land when we go out. At the closing of each project, we have a feast where the students, their parents, grandparents, siblings, and invited guests come, and we have the students themselves present the medicine they've made, and they describe how they did it and what they learned from it, and they culminate by telling what they are taking with them from the project. We had a few really nice comments from some of the students where they actually went on their own after we had taken them out to gather a medicine, and they had gone out and they found this medicine on their own, and they were so excited to come back and tell us at our next meeting that they actually went out and did this. So we were so proud of them that they did this on their own. So obviously they're learning already. So that was a good outcome from that. Some of the challenges we have were currently we run out of plastic bins. Everything we do, we label and we put into a plastic bins with all our materials and our things we need to take. And then each time we're done, we have to pack up everything back into the plastic bins and take everything back with us. We use our homes. I use my home, and Caroline uses her home for when we're making the medicines. For cleaning the medicines, we use my garage. And we also use our outdoor picnic tables and our outdoor fireplaces to make these medicines. But it is very rewarding, and we are so happy for the help that we get. Just like Johnny said, we acknowledge the leaders and how they've come to our community, even to come and see what we're doing. And we're so happy for that they're not just staying away, but they're actually coming to see what we're doing instead of just being a face over there, and we're not knowing who they are. We do have some challenges with getting to different places to get to the medicines, and we muddle through and do what we can do. And so far, so good. We've done, I think, a really good job of what we're doing, and the students obviously really like to learn what we're trying to teach them.
The slide right now, Myrtle, is the one where you're all making raspberry jam. I think it's in your kitchen, and then it shows, I think it's Jonathan sort of snuggling his, looking very proud too of the jam that he made at the end. And so Sarah was just slowly showing the pictures of you and Caroline and Donna with the youth out on the land as you were speaking.
Oh, good. That was the last one we just did. We actually went out on the boat there on the one slide there. My husband's boat. Again, we're utilizing our own resources here. And we went for about an hour down the river, and that was when we picked the wild mint. Mm-hmm. And we got a little bit rained on, but we were okay. We were prepared by having our little ponchos. The kids, I was really pleased with the ones when they actually filleted the fish. They caught the fish first, and they were kind of scared to fillet, but they kind of made a mess of them. But we told them, okay, so it's a practice to become better at it. And they all took a hand and filleted their own fish. And then I went with a couple of the kids, and we made bannock. And then the two girls started to cook. And they cooked everything that we had out there, and then we sat down on the shore there and had a lunch. And as we were sitting there, one of the kids said, "Oh, I could do this every day." And it was such a nice feeling in my heart for them to say that. This is something I do with my children and my grandchildren, pretty well every day, every weekend, and realizing that these children don't have that opportunity, and now they had that opportunity. And to hear somebody say, I could do this every day, was like, I'm not giving them a fish. I'm teaching them how to fish, and they're going to be able to do that on their own, and to cut it and to cook it. One of the girls threw their fish, the first one they put into the oil, she put it from way high, and it splashed, and she jumped back. And I said, "Oh, a learning experience." I said, when you put the fish in, you go close to the grease and just gently drop it in, and it won't splash. And she went and she did that the next one, and she said, "Oh, yay!" So another, just right there where we taught her a safety lesson that you don't think of when you're doing it yourself. But when you see somebody do it, you're like, oh, I guess I should have told them that. The raspberry one was kind of we had gone out to pick wee guess, and as we were picking the wee guess, we noticed the raspberries were out. So one of the kids just said, "Oh, we should pick some raspberries." But our meeting was to pick wee guess. So we said, you know what? If we get enough wee guess here, we'll come back and we'll bring you guys back to pick raspberries. So that was kind of an aside, but we taught them how to clean them and to cook them, and we did it two different ways with sugar and without sugar. And we gave them a little sample, but they wanted to take the jars home with them immediately. So we told them, you have to wait until we have our presentation, because we want the parents to be there, and you take home the medicines that we've made, so that'll be a part of that also. So they said, no, we know how we can go get our own berries and make our own jam. And one of the kids mentioned in their learning outcomes that this would be cheaper than going to the store. And I thought, wow, you realize that on your own, because we didn't say that. We just let them learn kind of, and then when he said that to the group, I said, oh, good, there's something he picked up from that, because it's quite expensive to buy jam in a store where they could just go out and get their own in the summer, and there's lots of berries around our community.
So, Myrtle, I'm thinking we should maybe do the same thing that I was talking about with Johnny and see if we can maybe do an hour-long conversation where maybe some of those youth could join us on the phone, and any of the Northern Manitoba communities could listen in and hear more about the program, because it's so important, and I know the youth are getting so much out of it. I'm just clock watching, because unfortunately that's part of this sharing, and I think we should move along so that we have well, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. And I was very happy to recently be in Wabowden and see and understand a bit more about how important this land-based learning and cultural immersion and connection to the land is to people there. So thank you for all that you're doing in building this program and supporting the youth. I'm going to turn it over for the last few minutes to Andi Sharma and Jennell Majeran. They're from Province Manitoba Northern Healthy Foods Initiative, and as I said at the beginning, NHFI was the key anchor partner in helping what at the time was Heifer International to think about whether a collaborative was a good idea, and it has grown a lot since then. And Jennell and Andi, we've just asked them to share maybe a few of their thoughts about the collaborative. So I'll invite you to do that now. Thank you, guys.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Thank you, Julie, for inviting Andi and I to participate. So we're going to kind of tag team a little bit. I'll do the beginning piece, and Andi will end it off. I just wanted, so folks knew what we were about. The Northern Healthy Foods Initiative came to be as a result of a study that was done on the high cost of food in Northern Manitoba in 2003. And what it led to, the major part of our work that came out of that is we fund 5 partners annually to work in assigned communities. And some of those organizations are Food Matters Manitoba, Frontier School Division, Bayline Regional Roundtable, Northern Association of Community Councils, and Four O's Regional Health Authority. And that will be, those organizational names will be familiar to some of you folks. And so they work in assigned communities, and it just depends on the community, what the community is interested in doing. Those partners help out. Carol is actually that wasn't able to join the call, is actually the NHFI person with Bayline. And so some of the activities that it's all kinds of typically food-related stuff, like harvesting food from the land. So it could be poultry, it could be gardening, it could be fruit, it could be land-based education. It could be taking youth out onto the land, like they were just like Myrtle was just talking. There's lots of beekeeping and fruit trees and so on. So that's a major part of the work that we fund with them. So for us, being a member of the collaborative has supported that work in a number of different ways. And so the first being being a member in the collaborative helps with it aligns with our departmental mandate. We work for a department called Indigenous and Northern Affairs, and our minister has a mandate to work positively and respectfully with the Indigenous and Northern communities. We also have a mandate in this department to work towards reconciliation. So getting people back out on the land certainly is an important element in reconciliation. And there's also a mandate, a government mandate to develop, to support economic development in the North. And it's new, it's called the Look North Strategy, but it gives us an opportunity to inspire and nurture interest in food-related business. And so the second way that it enables us to work together, or it complements the work we do, is the collaborative's vision and our vision are very much the same, in that we seek to improve access to healthy food because we want healthier food systems in these communities. Another similarity is that we both want resilient local economies, and there's a definite connection between community economic development and health. Economic opportunities make people stronger, make communities stronger, make families stronger, and therefore make Manitoba stronger. Some other areas are, it gives us the opportunity to expand our reach. There's 101 communities that are eligible, and these communities are listed in the Northern Food Prices Report, but we're only able to support 64 communities annually through the partners because we only have limited dollars. So it's a very large, if you've seen that map before, it covers over 80% of the province. And so we're only able to support 64 of those communities. And when working with the collaborative or being a member of the collaborative gives us an opportunity to not only complement perhaps what the partners might be doing, but also to work with those communities that aren't presently being served. There's greater impact, obviously. The collaborative approach assists to align with community values that lead to more sustainable projects. The collaboration we value the collaboration. It includes all interested groups, and we're especially grateful for the model that's used with the collaborative because the community obviously is the most important, but the fact that we have access to the Northern advisors is a great thing. And obviously we can, we give very limited funds to the collaborative, but there's a lot of other organizations that give quite a lot of money. And so it gives those communities that we're working with, that we're mandated to work with, access to a much larger pot of funding because we don't have that much funding to go around. There's not enough money to go around. And the other area that is working out really well is learning opportunities such as, today we're hearing stories from projects and experiences from those folks, and we get to hear about what's going on at a different level from those projects and connect with other people on the call. The fact that there's the north-to-north learning exchanges that Julie talked about earlier is another opportunity that to share another shared learning opportunity. And also, and I had it here once again, I'm just following my notes that our work is better because it gives us a better perspective by working with those Northern advisors. Working through an Indigenous lens has become more of an important focus for us, and so it helps us to provide better support to those partners in those communities. I'm going to hand it over to Andi now, who has a couple areas that she'll speak on.
Sure, just building up what Jennell has said about the many great reasons that NHFI is proud to be a part of this work is the diversity of stakeholders that it opens up our work to. So not only does the collaborative bring, like Jennell said, leverages more dollars and in-kind support into Northern Manitoba, but also assists to address challenges through experience and knowledge. So when we're sitting around a table, all of the people involved in the collaborative, there's some really tough conversations that we have, and a couple of examples I can think of are around conservation, that we had a really great discussion around declining caribou herd numbers or accessing peat moss for fertilizing the food production. And so we learn a lot from the people around the table, and we work through these different challenges together, drawing on all the different expertise, right from people who have lived experiences with those challenges to folks like us who are sitting in the north trying to wrap our brains around it. The collaborative brings so much more expertise and resources to the table than we could access on our own. And one of the great things is that I have learned, NHFI has learned about all the other organizations' goals and values around developing food security in the north. And so you really get a more complete picture of what's going on and how we can all coordinate our efforts to make sure that we're hitting similar goals and really living similar values. And then we get some very practical help too. So you can assist with, we've gotten help with assistance with troubleshooting things like the Canada Revenue Agency when they implemented a new policy a few years ago, back in 2014. Only registered municipal and public bodies that were registered on the CRA's official list who have qualified donee status. And that means as of the implementation of that policy, only those municipalities and public bodies on the list could receive funding. And that was a huge problem for the work that we were part of, and it was because of the good work that happened around the collaborative table that we were able to work around some of those issues. And then, of course, in addition to all the great help that we get as being a part of the collaborative, we also get to celebrate the successes, and which is my favorite part. You know, we can celebrate that more communities get supported, more food is accessed, more capacity is developed, and more intergenerational learning opportunities are created, which all comes together to, you know, help support healthier communities being built. And with success, there's always, you know, when you're making these investments and hoping for these great outcomes, it always comes with a little bit of risk. And so being a part of the collaborative is actually being a part of a process that recognizes and manages that risk. And I think that's all we have to share.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Andi and Jennell. I really have to thank the two of you and the Northern Healthy Foods Initiative program, because I think you don't often find programs that can be flexible and nimble enough to take part in something that's outside of the norm. And what Jennell and Andi were talking about, you know, having a table where there's different organizations with different experiences and skill sets and knowledge has been really helpful for us to work as a group to better serve Northern communities. So together we're stronger. The collaborative, we often refer to this little mantra, which is like, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, let's go together. And it's exciting to look at the list of participants here, because I can see we have some of our folks that we partner with from Norway House Cree Nation and Leaf Rapids and Puck and Wabowden that are on the phone together today. And yeah, I just really appreciate that you've all taken the time to join us. So we have a few minutes left. Antonia is going to unmute. I think Antonia is going to try and unmute everyone. And if you're on the phone and you'd like to ask a question, she's going to unmute everyone. And there's like, Myrtle was talking about that. You can *6 to mute yourself and *6 to unmute yourself, maybe. So if you want to unmute yourself if you're on the phone, and if you're on through computer, if you want to unmute and ask a question or type a question in, it would be wonderful to hear your thoughts or hear what else you'd like to talk about. I also just encourage you, like, that story sharing booklet is meant to be shared. It's on our website, and please do let me know if you'd like hard copies. And there's also a video that promotes the awesome things that about 5 of our community partners are doing, including Larry Alm that Johnny mentioned earlier on. So there's a link to the video on the last slide of our presentation there. Yeah, so I'll just put it out there. Is there any questions or anything folks would like to talk about further? Although it looks like pretty much everyone is on mute except for me and Antonia. We can talk to each other maybe. How's it going, Antonia? Can you?
Just trying to, the buttons aren't quite working to how I thought they would. So if you do have a question, please try and unmute yourself for the sake of timing today. Thanks.
Sure.
Well, my name is Sherry Ferland, and I'm from the Barrows Community Council.
Hi, Sherry.
I just want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to listen in.
Oh,
It's really interesting.
It's great to have you on the phone. If we had more time, Sherry could tell you all kinds of amazing stuff that they're doing in Barrows with a beautiful greenhouse project and emerging into a cool new experiment with a vegetable U-pick. So it's great to have you on the phone, Sherry. They're one of the communities we've partnered with for a while. Does anyone else have a question or comment they'd like to make?
No question. Just going to thank you for the invite for the conference call. It was great hearing about some of the stories you guys are, things you're doing.
Awesome. I know who that is. So that's Irvin Biggity. Hey, Irvin. Hey. Irvin is one of our Northern advisors. He has helped so much with all of the organizations around the table to learn about issues in Northern communities, and Irvin actually spent a ton of time helping with the Community Stories booklet this year as an extra way to contribute, and he's up in Leaf Rapids, so thanks for joining, Irvin.
Thanks.
Hello there.
Hi.
My name is Donna Messman, and I'm from Winnipeg, And I just also want to thank you for the opportunity of the invitation and the opportunity of listening to these people who are involved with your programs. And it makes a real difference to hear a real voice talking to you. And that's what I take away from it, the people connection. So thank you.
Thanks for taking the time to join us. And I think, I know I'm feeling inspired to maybe try and, we always think that over the phone is kind of not as good as in person, which is true. But I think we should maybe try and do some more story sharing through this conference call avenue, in addition to, the way that we try and get people together in the North and face-to-face whenever possible. But thanks, Donna, for joining us, and thanks for supporting the collaborative.
Pleasure.
Yeah. I see a question here from friends in Saskatchewan. Interested in getting information on the greenhouse project. Yes, we can totally send out information on the greenhouse project and the various things that communities are doing around greenhouses in Northern Manitoba. If anyone wants to follow up afterwards, this is Julie speaking. My contact information is on the slide, or I'm happy to speak with you on the phone as well. And it's just a privilege to be able, it's very much a privilege to be able to help communities share the stories of what they're doing. So there's a whole array of really cool things around food that people are doing right now. Any other questions or comments?
Yes.
Hi, who's that? Is that Russell?
It's Russell.
Hey, Russell.
Norway House.
Yay.
I just want to shout out to all of our supporters out there. Julie's there, Andi's there, Jennell is there. I want to share with you what we've been doing here this month. We've been busy, and I've been keeping my mouth shut, so you don't know. This is our 17th day of school. For 15 of those days, our garden project has fed the lunch program through our potatoes. Potatoes was really successful here this year. In addition to that, last Saturday morning, we did a community harvest, and we gave away 3,000 pounds of potatoes out of our garden. It's been a great year.
Amazing. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you could join. Yeah, you guys. So there are some pictures of what's happening in Norway House that are in the story sharing booklet, and it's just amazing what what Russell and his gang up in Norway House have accomplished over the last really 2 years. They've broken an incredible amount of ground and are growing vegetables like crazy. So Russell, anybody that can see my little Skype icon, it's me with Caleb, one of your students there when we were able to visit Norway House back in June. That's become my my favorite picture that I put up with my Skype account. So
there's other things too, but our success this year has been potatoes, and I didn't even realize that we could even this school. For those of you on the line that don't know, we have close to 1,400 students, 200 staff, and we've been feeding them all for the month. But we're not out of potatoes yet, but we're not going to make it to the end of next month. I know that.
That's beautiful. Good job. Thank you. Yeah, we should have a whole session just on maybe on garden and greenhousing, because I see there's interest from some folks in Saskatchewan on talking more about that. And yeah, we could do a whole series of different things after the harvest is done and maybe through the hunting season, and then settle in and do some good story sharing over the winter. Thanks, Russell. Does anyone else have comments or questions they want to ask? We're coming up to the end of our time here, but if you do, it'd be great to hear from you. Okay, well, I'm just going to say Chimigwech, thank you very much to everyone who has taken the time to join. Thank you so much to Johnny Sinclair and to Myrtle Fourre and to Andi and Jennell for taking the time to share your thoughts on this work. Working as a collaborative is not traditional for philanthropy, but it happens to be extremely traditional for Indigenous people all over the world to work extremely collaboratively and to look after the whole. So we are trying to learn and trying to do well with our actions. And as Todd was saying in the introduction, there's a lot of learning for all of us to do, but we're trying to approach it with open hearts and open minds and really work in partnership as good allies. So we want to continue doing that with sharing stories and allowing people to share their own stories too, the way that Johnny and Myrtle were able to do today. So just thank you very much to everyone for joining, and please do follow up if you have questions or want to learn more. And for those of